It was a humid Friday night, the kind of night where the air feels heavy, like the city itself is tired. Tommy had been working since 6 p.m. His little moped was already rattling from all the rides across town, and all he wanted was to go home, shower, and then crash onto his bed. But just as he was about to clock out, his boss waved him over. One last delivery, Tommy. Customers already paid online. Just drop it off. Tommy groaned. His shirt clung to his back, his helmet strap had rubbed his skin raw, and his stomach was growling. But a paid order meant no excuses. He looked at the receipt. One large pizza delivered to St. Mary's General Hospital. Tommy frowned. Hey boss, St. Mary's? Isn't that the one that's shut down? The boss didn't even look up. Address is on the slip. Customers always right, he replied. Tommy hesitated. Everyone in town knew St. Mary's Hospital had closed years ago. A newer, shinier hospital had been built across the river. St. Mary's was left to rot, stripped, abandoned. Kids dared each other to sneak in, but even they did not stick around after dark. Tommy shoved the pizza into his insulated bag, muttered under his breath, and hopped onto his bike. The city was quieter than usual that night. Few cars, empty sidewalks. Tommy rode through neighborhoods where dogs barked behind gates, past street vendors closing shops. He opened his maps, following the glowing blue line. But just as he passed an intersection near the industrial district, the screen froze. He tapped it, nothing. Then, in one sudden flicker, his phone shut off. Battery drained, completely dead. Great, Tommy muttered. He knew the rough direction, though. St. Mary's wasn't a hard spot. It loomed around the city outskirts like a shadow, a hulking, grey structure that refused to disappear. And sure enough, through the mist rising from the damp asphalt, he saw it, tall and silent. The faded white letters, St. Mary's Hospital. Tommy coasted his bike to a stop. The parking lot was cracked, overgrown with weeds pushing through the concrete. The windows were dark, boarded, except one where a dim yellow light glowed faintly. The front door was open. It stood just like that. Tommy's chest tightened. This was wrong. Hospitals don't just sit open like that. But someone on that very day had ordered that particular food. Someone had paid. Maybe it was a night guard. Maybe construction workers inside. Tommy didn't have any answers. He told himself it was fine. Just drop the box, get the signature, and leave. He pushed the glass door. It creaked louder than it should. Inside, the air was stale, a mix of dust, mildew, and something faintly metallic, like blood. Tommy called it off, and then he addressed its silent darkness. Hello, pizza delivery. Is anyone there? His voice echoed down the empty corridor. Nobody answered, no reply, just silent silence, only silence. So Tommy decided to hop inside. Once he was inside, at the reception desk, he walked up, but it was abandoned, paperwork scattered, as if someone had left in a hurry years ago. Chairs were overturned, a wheelchair rested in the corner. The fluorescent lights above him buzzed, one flickering weakly. Tommy's sneakers squeaked on the cracked tiles as he walked further in. His breath grew louder in the silence. Somewhere Faintly, a light glowed at the end of the hall. It was room number 306. The number hung on the door, crooked. The door was half open. Tommy swallowed, tightened his grip on the pizza box, and nudged the door with his foot. Inside was one hospital bed and someone sitting on it. At first, Tommy thought it was a mannequin. The figure was too still, head bowed, hands resting on its lap. A thin hospital gown hung off its frail frame. "Hey," Tommy whispered. "Pizza delivery? Was that you who called me? Or was that you who paid for the order?" The figure did not move. Tommy took a step closer. And once he took a step closer and closer, the head tilted and he saw the face. Eyes milky white, unfocused, skin pale gray, stretched thin, lips cracked, peeling. The figure smiled. "You're late," it rasped. Tommy dropped the box. His heart hammered against the ribs. The figure stood too quickly, too stiffly, and from nowhere deep in the hospital, the sound of the doors slamming echoed. One by one, the doors were closing, trapping him inside. Tommy bolted. He was quick-footed, and he bolted out of the door. His footsteps pounded against the tiles. His breath ragged. He did not care about the bike, the job, the pizza. He just wanted to get out of the damned hospital. But the hallways seemed different and longer, like as if he was hallucinating, and was twisting, as if the hospital was rearranging itself. He turned left and right only to find the way blocked by a wall that had not been there before. He turned right. Door slammed on his face, and all the while, behind him, the sound of dragging feet, slow, steady, growing louder. He could feel it. Closer and closer came the sound. The lights above flickered, then died, plunging him into darkness. The last thing anyone might have heard about Tommy's scream echoing through the empty halls of St. Mary's. The next morning, when Tommy's pizza boss had just come into the office, they found Tommy's bike still chained outside. On the counter inside the shop was a pizza box, cold and untouched. No one saw him bring it back. No one saw him again at all. And to this day, some locals swear that if you drive past St. Mary's after midnight, you will see a figure in the window, wearing a pizza cap, holding a box. And if you are foolish enough to stop, lean in and listen, you will hear a whisper carried out through the cracked glass. "You're late." It was just past 11:30 p.m. when Rohan left Tony's Pizza with an order. One large pepperoni and extra cheese. The delivery address was out on the edge of town, maybe 20 minutes along the old highway that cut through the woods. Most drivers hated that route. No street lights, barely any traffic, just endless asphalt, trees pressing close on both sides, and the kind of silence that made you think twice about stopping. But Rohan had taken it dozens of times. He wasn't scared. The air was warm, his little delivery scooter buzzing along at 50 kilometers per hour, pizza box strapped behind him. He had just passed the hallway mark when it happened. A sharp pop. The scooter jolted, wobbled, and then slowed to a dead stop. It was a flat tire. Rohan groaned. He pulled the bike over to the side of the road. Kicking the stand down, the highway around him was silent, except for the chirping of crickets. He pulled out his phone. There was no signal. His options were limited, so he had to wait for a car or start walking. But then, in the distance, he saw headlights. A car slowed as it approached. An old pickup truck, its paint scratched, one headlight dimmer than the other. It rolled to stop beside him, engine rumbling low. The driver leaned over, rolled down the passenger's window. It was a middle-aged man, thick beard. He had a baseball cap pulled low, and his smile looked too wide. The man asked Rohan, "Do you have a flat tire?" Rohan nodded. "Yeah, no signal either." The man glanced at the scooter and said, "Highways like this eat tires for breakfast. Hey lad, you hop in, I'll give you a lift." At first, Rohan hesitated. He had been told never to take rides out from strangers, but it was late and the delivery was running behind and the road was empty. So he climbed in as he had no choice. The man reached across and pulled the passenger door shut. "My name's Daniel," he said. "You're lucky I came by. Not many folks drive this stretch at night." And as they pulled back onto the road, Rohan forced a polite laugh. But something about Daniel's voice was off. Too cheerful, too rehearsed. And the truck smelled strange. Very strange. At first, Daniel made small talks. Asked about the pizza box. Asked where Rohan was headed. But then the questions grew stranger. "You live alone, kid? Parents around? You got anyone waiting for you at home? What's the longest you have ever gone without anyone knowing where you were?" Rohan laughed nervously, answering as vaguely as possible. The truck kept rolling deeper into the woods. No houses, no gas stations, just darkness pressing against the windows. And then Rohan noticed something. There was a rope on the floor near his feet, thick coiled rope, and next to it a large hunting knife. Rohan's throat went dry. But Daniel as he is, got him looking. The man grinned. "Don't worry about those. Those are the tools of the trade." Rohan nodded quickly, forcing a smile, but his heart was hammering on his chest. After a while, Rohan noticed they were not heading towards the city anymore. The highway forked. The main road was well paved. Faint glow of town lights in the distance. Daniel took the other road, narrow, cracked, completely dark. Rohan tried to sound calm. "Sir, I think you missed the turn." Daniel's smile never faltered. "It's a shortcut," he said. The trees grew thicker. The air became colder. And then, after a few kilometers, Daniel slowed the truck to a crawl. "There's something I want to show you," he said. The truck pulled into a clearing. Moonlight spilled across what looked like an old shed. Its door hung open. Inside, Rohan could just make out shapes, dark, metallic shapes, chains hanging from the ceiling. Every instinct in his body screamed. He had to get out now. As Daniel reached across the seat, maybe to grab the rope, maybe the knife, Rohan shoved the door open. He hit the ground, running. Behind him, Daniel shouted. He came running after him, but Rohan was too quick. The tuck door slammed. Heavy boots pounded after him. Rohan tore through the trees, branches, whipping his arms, lungs burning. The forest was endless, his legs trembling with exhaustion. But he didn't stop. Not until he saw it. Faint lights through the grass. A gas station. He stumbled into the parking lot, gasping for air, startling the lone attendant inside. When they turned to look back, the road behind him was empty. Daniel was gone. The truck was gone. And it was like as if he had never been there. And in the morning, they informed the cops, and the police searched the area the next day. They found the clearing, but inside the shed, they discovered ropes, knives, bones, old bleach white bones. But Daniel was never caught. And Rohan, he never worked another late night delivery again. To this day, he says he still dreams of that ride. The smile, the questions, the sound of boots chasing him through the woods. Nobody knew how he escaped Daniel, but God forbid him from ever getting caught under Daniel's radar again. And on that night, he ran like hell through the woods. Probably Daniel was much slower than Rohan, or maybe his adrenaline kicked in, or Rohan was just lucky. But nobody ever knew how many unlucky people had met Daniel's fate. And sometimes on quiet nights, when the highway is empty, he swears he can still hear the man's voice, whispering from the dark, "You are lucky you got away." It was just past 11:45 at night when 12-year-old Ryan heard his stomach growl. His parents had gone out of town for the weekend, leaving him in the care of his older brother Ethan, who was upstairs, headphones on and gaming into the night. Ryan had been told to go to bed hours ago, but he didn't feel sleepy at all. The house was quiet, too quiet, and the shadows from the trees outside stretched across the walls like long fingers. He tried distracting himself with TV, but the faint smell of leftover pizza from the box on the counter made his hunger unbearable. So, against the rules, Ryan reached for the old greasy pizza flyer stuck to the fridge. It was from a place he did not remember his family ordering from before. The name was strange. It was Papa Rico's Pizzeria. The number was smudged, faded at the edges, but still he dialed. The phone rang once, twice, and then someone answered. A man's voice. Deep, too deep. "Papa Rico's, what will it be?" Ryan hesitated. Can I get just a small pepperoni, extra cheese?" There was a pause, a long, uncomfortable silence, as though the man on the other end was listening to something other than the order. Then slowly he said, "Of course, kid. One small pepperoni, extra cheese. We will deliver it right to your door." The call ended with a click. No price, no delivery timing, nothing. Ryan frowned, but the thought of warm pizza at midnight kept him from caring too much. He flopped onto the couch, turning up the volume of the TV to drown out the unease crawling up his spine. At exactly 12:15 at night, a knock rattled the front door. Ryan froze. That was fast, too fast. Slowly, he crept to the door, peeking through the peephole, and there he was. A man in a pizza delivery uniform, cap pulled low over his forehead, his face shadowed. He was holding a box. The logo matched the one on the flyer, Papa Rico's. But something was wrong. The man wasn't smiling like normal delivery guys. He wasn't shifting from foot to foot, waiting impatiently. He was standing perfectly still, too still, and his free hand, the one not holding the pizza box, was tucked behind his back. Ryan's instincts screamed at him not to open the door, but he was 12, hungry, and he didn't want his brother to know he had ordered food. So he cracked the door open just a few inches. The man's head tilted slowly, like he was studying Ryan. Then, in that same low voice from the phone, he said, "Small pepperoni, extra cheese just for you." Ryan reached for the box. The man didn't let go. His grip was too tight, too tight. And then Ryan noticed something. The pizza box was empty, lighter than cardboard. When Ryan's eyes darted back up, the man was smiling now. His teeth were too sharp, his lips cracked, and he said, "Enjoy your meal." Ryan slammed the door shut, locked it. His heart was pounding so loud he was sure the man could hear it. He backed away slowly, clutching the useless box. From outside came the sound of footsteps, not leaving, but pacing hard, around the porch, around the side of the house. Ryan darted to the window, carefully pulling back the curtain just a fraction. The man was there, standing in the yard, staring up at the house. His head snapped towards Ryan's window as though he had felt the boy's gaze. Ryan dropped to the floor, heart hammering. He thought about calling Ethan, but he could still hear his brother's muffled laughter upstairs, yelling at his game. If he went up there now, Ethan would only be mad at him for sneaking food. Another knock, but it was louder this time, and then another. It was very hard. The door shuddered, and then silence. Ryan stayed on the floor listening. The TV still murmured in the background, but all he could hear was the heavy rhythm of his breathing. Minutes passed, and he thought maybe the man was gone. So he gathered all the courage that he could and crept back to the door and looked through the peephole. There was nothing. It was dead silence, and the porch was empty. He exhaled shakily, relief flooding his body, but then he noticed the flyer, the greasy pizza flyer from the fridge. It wasn't where he had left it, it was on the floor, inside the house, folded neatly and under the door. Ryan stumbled back, his throat tightening. The man had been inside somehow. He wanted to scream for Ethan, but something inside him whispered not to. Not yet, because what if the man was already in the house? He grabbed the nearest thing he could, a flashlight from the drawer, and moved towards the kitchen. The air inside the house felt heavy and it was suffocating. Then Ryan heard a sound all of a sudden, the creak of a floorboard upstairs. Ryan's stomach dropped and he thought about Ethan. He bolted up the stairs, calling out, "Ethan, Ethan, don't open the door." But when he burst into Ethan's room, his brother spun around in his chair, annoyed. "What the hell, Ryan?" he snapped, yanking off his headphones. Ryan tried to explain, breathless and panicked, but Ethan just laughed, shaking his head. "You ordered pizza at midnight? Are you an idiot? There's no one here." Ethan stood, brushing past him. "Come on, I'll show you. You probably freaked yourself out from that horror movie you were watching." Together, they went downstairs. The front door was locked, the windows closed. Nothing seemed wrong. "See?" Ethan said, smirking. "No pizza guy, no creep, just your imagination." Ryan wanted to believe him desperately, but then the two of them turned back towards the living room, and there it was, on the coffee table, the pizza box. It was opened, but inside there was no pizza, only a single kitchen knife. It was their single kitchen knife. Ethan froze, his smirk vanished. Ryan shook his head violently, and they could hear the footsteps echoing from the hallway. It was slow, deliberate, and coming closer. Ethan grabbed Ryan's arm and pulled him back. They moved towards the stairs, but before they could climb, a voice drifted out from the dark hallway. "You kids should not open the doors so late at night. It isn't safe." The delivery man stepped out of the shadows. This time they saw him clearly. His uniform was stained, the cap pulled low but not enough to hide the scars carved across his face. In his hand, he held another knife, and he was smiling, always smiling. Ethan shoved Ryan behind him. "Run," he whispered. But Ryan couldn't move. His legs were cement. The man tilted his head again, grin widening. Don't worry, Ryan. I'm not here for both of you. Just him. He pointed the knife at Ryan again. Ethan lunged, grabbing a lamp and swinging it, shattering it across the man's shoulder. The killer staggered but did not fall. He only laughed, deep like a growl. You kids always think you can fight back, but the order's already placed, and I always deliver. Ethan dragged Ryan upstairs, slamming the bedroom door and locking it. They pushed furnitures against it as the sound of boots thundered up the staircase. The door rattled and the wood cracked. The man, the pizza guy, the man who shouldn't be with Ethan and Ryan, came upstairs and started banging the door as hard as he could. Ethan grabbed his phone, fumbling to dial 911. His hands were shaking, the number slippery on the screen. The operator's voice cracked. 911. What's your emergency? Ethan shouted. There's a man in our house. He's trying to kill us. Before the operator could reply, the line went dead. The phone screen flickered, then went black. The power in the whole house cut out. Darkness swallowed them. Only the sound of heavy breathing on the other side of the door remained. Then it was all silence. No more banging, no more footsteps. It was nothing. Pin drop silence. Ethan whispered, He's gone. But Ryan, he knew he wasn't. He was waiting. And then they both heard it. From inside the room, the sound of the closet door creaking open. The killer stepped out slowly, eyes glinting in the moonlight through the window. He had been in the room with them the entire time. Ryan screamed. Ethan charged forward one last time, trying to protect his brother. The killer's laugh echoed through the house, a sound that would never be forgotten. And he said, I told you the order was for you. And the last thing Ryan saw was the glint of the knife in the dark. So no one ever saw Papa Rico's pizza fly again, but sometimes, late at night, kids still swear they hear a knock at their door and a voice whispering, Small pepperoni, extra cheese just for you.